There is nothing
Part
wrong
two.
with your radio.
Here we go.
Do not attempt to adjust the volume.
We are controlling the broadcast.
For the next hour we will control all that you hear.
You are about to experience the knowledge and insights of the media mothership.
Yes! Double the fun, double the fun. That's a lot of media mothership happening today.
Wow.
And again,
A third time.
Again, third time's a charm. Third time is a charm. All right, so you're listening to Media Mothership here on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. As always, we look at everything in and around the world of media and how it shapes our understanding of the world around us. I'm your host, Craig, joined by Taylor.
Hey.
And on music today, Ronan.
Yeah.
Let's hear a musical interlude. Very cool. Thumb piano kalimba.
Yeah.
Playing their tunes to help us get us into today's topic, which is cyberpunk, techno-orientalism, representation of Asia, and the video game in particular, Cyberpunk 2077, which both Taylor and I have been playing.
Yes.
Finally passed the first act in my game playthrough, so still new, but really struck by how fascinating.
So that's what you were playing.
It is indeed. Yes. Yes. So we're going to be chatting a little bit about the generalities of Cyberpunk 2077, as well as, most importantly, what I find the most fascinating aspect of it, which is the representation of Asia that's in this game.
Yep.
So all that and more coming up soon on Media Mothership. We'll go to a short musical interlude. Okay, welcome back to Media Mothership. So Cyberpunk 2077 is an action RPG video game developed by CD Projekt Red.
I think it's Red, not wrecked.
Some would say they did wreck their launch. And it's based on R. Talsorian's games, Cyberpunk tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
Which goes right back to, I think, the 90s or 80s that tabletop RPG came out. Anyway, so the title of CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 is that this is the first game they've moved on to since The Witcher.
Yep.
So they did the Witcher's game series, which was enormously successful. And this is quite a gear shift for them, as opposed to the fantasy world of Witcher. This is, as the game's title suggests, set in a cyberpunk future.
Wow.
Very dystopian, as all cyberpunk fiction is, where ultra-modern technology is coexisting alongside of, a human society that is suffering all manner of calamity. The location of the game is Night City, which is a free state of California within the world building. The year, as the name of the title suggests, is 2077. So it's our future as well. But if you've played the tabletop game, you'd know that basically this is an alternate future that started way back in the 90s, I think it started to diverge, where,
But even within the game itself, they say...
Get your mic a bit closer.
Even within the game itself, they talk about how certain events in the game happened in 2020.
Yes.
So it's
That's
definitely
right.
an alternate
Yeah,
timeline.
so there's some flashbacks where, a big tower complex is destroyed, and even that is within a far advanced technological version of our world. But it's not a kind of utopic technology future. This world is very much broken.
Yeah.
As happens in all cyberpunk, we're looking at mega corporations, multinational corporations. Arasaka in this game, and Militech. So as the names kind of evoke, Arasaka is as a Japanese-based company. Within that, of course, the idea that, as is standard for 80s cyberpunk world building, Japan and Asia is a rising power, and in many ways eclipsing the US and the West's power. In this game, you do have Militech as the US-based
Military technology.
military technology company. Yep. And so basically, these two organizations are pretty much managing most aspects of life. There are still functioning governments, but the real power and technology and the political power, the technological power is all based within companies.
Yeah. And everything's in vending machines.
That's right. There's a lot of it. Have you seen? I mean, you've not played Cyberpunk 2077. Have you seen it online in any fashion?
Yes, I've watched a playthrough of it.
Okay. What are some of the things you recall from the playthrough, Ronan?
Oh, it's very depressing in some parts.
In terms of the aesthetics?
In terms of the aesthetics and the wealth divide.
Exactly. Yeah, there's quite a stark rich versus poor class divide within the game space, and in many ways, you could say that in this global world, the rich and the poor are the only united global experiences, more so than national identities. So in the game, you're playing a kind of street level character. You can kind of, I guess, choose from various type of builds for your character, like a kind of tech based build or a
Cybernetic build,
right, a kind of tank. And it's a very adult game as well. There's sex and violent crime. As well as Ronan's pointing out, extreme poverty. It's very confronting collapse of the American dream. So even though you're in America, there's quite a lot of Asia that's there. You're playing as the character V, I guess you start the game trying to break into the big time, right? You're trying to kind of climb out of a kind of nobody existence.
You're being a mercenary is really it. Yeah.
So you're getting a lot of missions you're going on as you're trying to, become famous or improve your status within this cyberpunk space. Interestingly, kind of joining you on the mission is a character called Johnny Silverhand.
Yeah.
Whose voice, likeness, and motion capture were provided by Keanu Reeves.
You're breathtaking.
That's right. That was his fantastic experience at the Cyberpunk 2077 launch, where he came out on stage and, someone suddenly from the audience, what did they say?
You're breathtaking.
And Keanu Reeves, without missing a beat, just turns around and says, "You're breathtaking." So let's listen to that little clip now.
Okay, but let me tell you, the feeling of being there, of walking the streets of the future, is really going to be breathtaking. You're breathtaking. You're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking.
So, and that clip's kind of indicative of the real goodwill that this game had leading up to its launch, right? The sense that not only was this from an excellent, top-notch game company that had shown itself as highly supportive of its fan base, providing a lot of free DLCs, which were enormous, but also, as that launch suggests, no expense has been spared, it seems, right? In terms of voice talent, being able to realize this amazing world. So it was riding high on so much positivity. And from what I found online when I was looking at early reviews 4 years ago, positive reviews, right? People saying, this game looks good, some concerns, but it's beta and I'm sure they're going to fix it.
Right.
But then what were your memories of its launch debacle?
This is a bad question to ask me because I played it on a graphics card with 6 gigabytes.
You're the perfect person to ask that.
And
because it was pitched at a kind of, it'll be playing on for everything.
And it functioned perfectly.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Because
There were no issues
Right.
in my playthrough.
what was the story though that came out with its initial launch playthrough though, which your experience does not speak to?
Well, other people said that it was completely broken and they couldn't start playing it. It would just crash to desktop all the time. All of the intended things just wouldn't work. And
there was so much bad press that even Sony said, if
we're
you
going to
want
remove it from the store.
Yeah, we're going to remove it from the store, and also even if you've already started playing it, we'll refund your cost of
To
it.
be fair, I played on a PC. So
The PC Master Race,
Exactly.
represent. But you're also playing it now on the Switch.
yeah, Switch 2 now.
Yeah, what's that like?
Man, the games on there are expensive.
They are really expensive, but it operates well. Like it's fully. There's no issues with it at all. However, they just brought out a new patch where all of the cars can self-drive themselves, and apparently they're
Yes.
driving into each other or not driving at all, and issues like that.
Yes,
So there's
no,
still
I have-
issues
yeah.
ongoing now.
And that's a kind of GTA. Many people playing at that version of the car being able to auto drive, so you can take in the amazing visuals in this game setting. So that's the kind of setup, and it's since gone on to be very successful, I'd say. I mean, over those last 4 or 5 years, it's gone on to address most of those problems, and now it is considered, one of the best games to play if you're into kind of action RPG games.
Yeah.
So I've very much been enjoying it, but what really confronted me as I was playing it was how much it evoked my enjoyment growing up in the 80s and 90s of a particular view of what that future was going to be like, as many people were afraid of and excited about the Asia century approaching, right? That this was going to be like from the 20th viewpoint of the late 20th century, so the 90s in particular, that with the rise of anime and before that in the 80s, the dominance of particularly the Japanese automobile industry and other high-tech aspects coming out of Japan, that 21st century is going to be a Japan century. And Asia was on the rise. Within that was a backlash against it, where you had films like Blade Runner, in particular, that portrayed this future, and of course, drawing upon the inspiration of Cyberpunk, which is Neuromancer by William Gibson.
Sure.
That I read and enjoyed. Anyway, the sense was, though, that there was a fear of Japan, a fear of Asia, which was wound up in this concept, Techno-Orientalism, which looks at how the West often portrays East Asia in particular, and during the 90s and 80s, Japan and China as, both being hyper-technological, but also very weird, very culturally exotic. And so you have all these stereotypes and anxieties about Asia's economic and technological dominance. I don't know if anyone here remembers the 1980s Michael Keaton film. In Australia, it was called Working Class Man. In America, it was released as Gung Ho. But that was all about a declining American automobile factory that got bought out by a Japanese company in the 80s that wanted to come in and bring Japanese management structure. And it's got a lot of racism, a lot of culture clash, but it's very emblematic of that techno-orientalist vibe where you have this, yes, highly technologically developed, but all the Japanese are automatons, they're all soulless, kind of racism within that field. Aspects of that are also in the kind of world of Blade Runner. But before we go any further, we have got some comments.
Oh, yeah.
Good after from Big Boy Natey.
Yep.
Wonderful to have Big Boy Natey back on. Good afternoon, Doc Norris, Dad, and mysterious person in the corner. Great, yes, we do try to get some mysterious guests in. Big Boy Natey asks, what's the gameplay like in comparison to other games like GTA 5 or like Kingdom Come Deliverance, etc.? You've got more experience than I do, Taylor. You want to handle this one with Skyrim?
Yeah. Well, I would say it was. So my favourite game of all time, of course, is Skyrim, but this one comes as a close second because it is quite similar. However, it does have the the first person shooter thing, which Skyrim doesn't have. And so I would say it's closer to GTA in that regards. But you cannot go into third person.
Yeah, and that was part of the initial skepticism of some missteps at the time. I mean, it plays fine. I mean, that first person, many people say, is actually creates more immersiveness in the game space.
But it's funny when you put it off against Witcher, of which all of that was only third person, and this one's only first person.
The point that was made by many critics of this move was that it just weird, given how important the coolness of your character design is in the game, that you get so much customization for clothing, and you get cool points that you can develop your character around. And they want your character. They want you to spend time on your character design to make it look cool. But then, of course, you don't see it often in the game unless it's through a mirror or, in passing, or if you're jumping into a vehicle and you do that further backwards. But yeah, gameplay's good. I mean, I got to admit, it's one of those games. Theorists here at UTAS refer to it as the Ludodrome. Yep. Where the more you play these immersive world-building games, the more you can start seeing the world around you through the HUD, right? You start seeing, like, I kind of think I'm in the Cyberpunk HUD, or wouldn't it be cool if the Cyberpunk HUD was here as I'm walking to McDonald's, and then I can scan people?
This is
and
ridiculous and mental, and I don't know what you're talking
Gang
about.
X, or if I'm in the car and I'm thinking, if I was playing Grand Theft Auto or Cyberpunk 2077, I could just flip a UE right here and speed off. Stuff these. I mean, it's a game, fictional space. Obviously, I know what the difference between reality and fiction is.
It doesn't sound like that, Craig.
But don't you find it sometimes you're in a hub world and you spend a lot of time there? Some people in first-person shooters, in fact, have said they'll stop playing the game and they'll still see the blip for the gun sight in their vision.
Well, that's
right?
like the
They'll
Tetris effect, isn't it?
Right, yeah. So what is the Tetris effect for those that don't know?
I think if you play Tetris for more than 2 hours or something like that, you start seeing the blocks coming down.
Yeah. And I think similarly, I mean, Big Nady Boy says, I mean, kind of agree with Craig. Thank you. I've experienced the same. Thank you. Yes.
You're both mental.
Well, one of Tasmania's greatest living authors, Shirtaloon, and his book, He Who Fights with Monsters, is all about that concept of a guy that travels through a portal to another world, and his only advantage is that the world has recreated him but given him video game HUD interface with the world he's in. So he uses a chat, and he has a map that pops up, and he can bring up his storage devices. And I was thinking, what a fantastic idea. I guess that's Google Glasses, right? If you could interact with the world around you with a game HUD interface, and you could get storage items out.
Oh no,
put
absolutely.
Things into storage.
Because they've got the things that you can put on the dashboard of your car, and it flashes it up onto the windshield of which direction you need to go in order to follow Google Maps. I've always wanted one of them.
UTAS researcher from sociology did a project looking at gamers who played GTA back in the day, and his interview locally here in Hobart was asking them, after you've played the game, does it make you see Hobart more in a different way? And some of them recounted that experience of, I'd like to, drive down this one-way street if I was in the game. So you're starting to see the cityscape as more international as well. One guy was saying, I thought Hobart was really boring, but then after playing GTA, I realized there are aspects of Hobart which are like the gang world of GTA. Driving down Hungry Jack's, and there were 3 kids.
And you could have just leapt out of the car and
that would be
their throats
Gang
right
X.
there.
I get the money.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're saying make sure you do see the difference between reality and fiction, but it made for some people see Hobart as a world engaged globally.
Yeah.
Whereas, there are dark parts of Hobart. Just like you could do a GTA Hobart.
This is just for people who have got no imagination. I'm sorry.
No. It makes the space around them more exciting through their imagination.
Yeah,
They're super imaginative.
You think about that
They're
without playing a game.
I can make...
Whenever I drive down the street, I think about running people over.
That would be more worrying to me. All right. I want to go back to find some key terms here.
Yeah.
So Techno-Orientalism. There's a
What
clip
does the future
here.
look like? This question is at the core of countless people.
Okay, there's a clip here that I'll play a second of that just defines the key aspects of Techno-Orientalism. So we'll listen to this for a second. This is from Maya C. It's for an assignment they had to do for university.
Okay.
Good on them.
On films, you probably know that there's another common element in the genre, the Asian influences. Most of the most popular cyberpunk films, shows, or video games take heavy influence from Asian, particularly East Asian, architecture, language, culture, and more. In fact, this concept is common enough that the name Techno-Orientalism, or sometimes Cyber-Orientalism, has been made for it. But before I dive into this trope, let's talk about how it relates to Orientalism as a whole.
So last week on the show, we covered Orientalism with the great episode of The Shadow, the temple bells of Nibbon.
Wow.
I think is how it's pronounced, within that fake Indian country. They had their other
Oh,
characters.
yeah, the really
Yep.
boring one, yeah.
Yeah, what I didn't realize, and it's about to talk about here, was it's all about a snake charmer, right? And of course, the concept of Orientalism came about through Edward Said, and the cover of most of the books, Orientalism by Edward Said, feature that picture of the snake charmer, which is considered one of the classic Orientalist tropes because it's the West's version of what the Orient is, right? It has this, kind of your Arabian carpets and a young boy with the snake hypnotizing it, and kind of 18th century sheiks in their clothing, and then nonsensical writing, which is just meant to evoke it. But again, it's that idea of nonsensical.
Yeah.
If you're actually from those regions, you wouldn't identify or experience any of that painting. But from a Western perspective, you have no experience of it. And that says, oh, how perfectly exotic. Anyway, let's hear first the definition of Orientalism.
Sure.
Orientalism can be summed up pretty well by French artist Jean-Léon Gérôme's 1879 painting, The Snake Charmer. The image embodies Western misguided ideas of the Orient, going as far as to include writings on the wall that are in fact utter gibberish. So, Orientalism. The idea was coined by Edward Said in 1978 as a way of referring to the general othering of Middle Eastern, Asian, and North African societies, whereas the Occident, the word referring to Western societies, was represented as normal and standard. The Orient was a backwards deviation from the norm. In his then controversial book Orientalism, Said talks about how within writing, those from the Occident were portrayed as heroes and those from the Orient as inferior villains.
So it was very much what we had in last week's episode with The Shadow, where the Western guy who went to India got trained up with the special Indian shadow techniques, brought that back rationally, but he's the good guy because he's the white guy. And then you had the drug den Indian evil guys who were trying to get the mayor's son hooked on opium.
But you have to think, at that time, what were the places that were in the Orient? What were their stories?
Yeah, look,
with the white McDonald's eating race.
Yeah, and this is where the cyberpunk genre is really interesting because that we finally do get that experience reflected back upon us, where just as we did Blade Runner, just as American creators like Ridley Scott and other white Anglo-centric creators did their version from a Western perspective of what Asia is, you've got Akira and Ghost in the Shell coming out of Japan, articulating the same setting, cyberpunk, but fundamentally reoriented from a Japanese point of view. Some of that is self-orientalist, right? So you've got some self-exoticism there. So you've got some geisha robots, which would very much be in that trope of orientalist, seductive, beautiful, passive.
But also that's part of their national identity. That's like having kangaroo robots.
Look, it can be. I mean, I guess the thing is that how many people in those countries have first-hand experiences of that? That isn't actually reflective of the lived experience, which is the criticism of Orientalism.
Such as here with kangaroos.
Which is where many Australians become so outraged at the stereotype that is portrayed on Australia, that it doesn't reflect the fact that most of us live in cities and not in the bush. Equally, what's interesting with Ghost in the Shell, for instance, is if you have a look at where they set the future, it's the Japanese version of Hong Kong. So Ghost in the Shell is set in a kind of, very Hong Kong looking future, not really a Japan-looking future. So they've orientalized Asia in a very interesting way in that film. Big Boy Nady has replied back. Do you want to read that, please?
It says, immersive gameplay does definitely make life a bit more alive after living a day-to-day life where it's all the same, and then play GTA where you can do anything. It makes it more alive.
Which always gets me interested in those farming simulators, or the what's the like on Roblox? There's a number of
Grow a garden.
Grow a garden.
yeah. How far are you through on that one?
I don't really play it, no.
Okay,
Wow.
Wow.
okay,
And
pushing
he
on.
lead hundreds of millions of men to sweep the world. And that, my friend, is what you have got to prevent.
It's worth mentioning here that Orientalism can refer to the othering of a variety of places, but in this video I'm talking specifically about Asia, and usually more specifically about East Asia. Orientalist imagery is still prevalent in pop culture, from the use of ninja costumes on Halloween to kimonos on stage. Though there is debate as to whether these acts are racist in and of themselves, they are almost always fantastical and inaccurate. As Pedro Jacobelli writes about a film...
So yeah, I mean, it is that whole debate around, your cosplay is my culture and cultural appropriation.
But not even cosplay as well, because I was in a theatre production in 2017 or something like that, where we had... It was Japan sort of themed Macbeth.
Oh, really?
If it was like Macbeth, if it was in Japan.
Really?
Yes.
There's a great Kurosawa film, Thrones of Blood, which is that.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
It's a samurai version.
It was that sort of thing.
Oh, fantastic!
So yeah, we learned how to do sort of like samurai sword fighting styles and things like that. We had taiko players come in and do the soundtrack behind everything, and our costumes were kimonos and yukatas, and they were sort of specifically not fantastical or anything. Well, the witches, of course, were fantastical because they were based off the one that crawls out of the TV screen.
The Ring.
The
Really?
Ring.
You did Sadako?
Yeah, but all of the other people, so I played a few other different characters, but all of my costume was sort of downplayed, sort of more traditional rather than fantastical.
Right. So you're like in a yukata,
Yeah.
a kind of Japanese bathrobe.
Yes.
So Orientalist of me to say that. But again, that would have copped some friction there.
We were scared about it, but there was no issues with it at all, because I guess we'd had just done it in a really sort of tasteful manner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yet no one there performing was Japanese.
No.
But again, some people would say it can be an effective entry point, right, to provide more interest in that space or a form of soft power, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it? I mean, for instance,
I thought you were talking about an effective entry point to racism.
no, to find out more about the complexity that really is part of Japan.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're upfront that this is as they're saying here, if it's kind of hyper fictional and hyper stylized, often that can help avoid that appropriation.
Monkey.
But yeah. I mean, that in its own way was an appropriation of Chinese clothing from the Japanese point of view. Yes, but again, in the performance you were doing, it was a little more downplayed.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting if that didn't cop any Orientalist backlash.
I've got a video of it if you want to watch it. It's good
Next
fun.
episode. All right, so what's Techno-Orientalism? So we'll quickly jump into a definition of Techno-Orientalism.
Yep.
Techno-Orientalism differs a bit from Edward Said's definition of Orientalism. Instead of seeing Asia as just backwards and uncivilized, Techno-Orientalism represents Asia as so technologically advanced that it has no humanity. Asian people can still be framed as intellectually inferior, but the key distinction is that they're now also hyper-technological, making them supposedly emotionless and inhuman. In their book Techno-Orientalism, Imagining Asia in Speculative Fiction, History, and Media, David S. Rowe, Betsy Huang, and Greta A. Neo write that this presents a juxtaposition of cultural retrograde with technical hyper-advancement. The message of Techno-Orientalism is actually a little contradictory, since it portrays Asian people as both terrifyingly intelligent as well as uncivilized and culturally behind. Techno-Orientalism means using Asian, more specifically East Asian, cultures as a signifier of the future. This isn't just any future, though, it's cyberpunk, thus a dystopian future. These films tend to have a white guy battling against a corrupt system or corporation in a city full of indicators of East Asian.
So, a couple of interesting points raised there. One of the spaces of it is this contradiction. So rather than Orientalism, which is set as, the East is underdeveloped, exotic, and mystical and irrational, and the West is hyper advanced and rational. In Techno-Orientalism, it's in many ways flipped, where Asia is now the technologically advanced space, but the criticism of Asia in that space, particularly if we're looking at the 1980s with the rise of particularly automotive companies, is that it's also dehumanizing, that they work like robots. They're a kind of an ant-like people that just, support labor. And again, this would be the racist discourse around othering and the fear of that cultural other.
Yeah, it's also a Trumpian fear of the country being taken over as well. Because if you look at Night City, it's set in America, and then it's got all of this sort of Asian influence from it, of
And within the game, you could certainly criticize the Arasaka company as emblematic of that. That's a company which is very much that fear of Asian power, that it's going to be not based on Western values, that'll be based on this idea of a Japanese values, which is full of loyalty and honor and tradition and working for the company, and you don't mean anything, the company means everything.
What's it called where it's filial piety as well?
Yeah. And again, those are stereotypes of experiences which don't reflect the lived experience that is the complexity of the Japanese space. But nevertheless is the stereotype there. So aspects of Cyberpunk 2077 certainly replicate that. I just want to play, though, what I think's really a counterpoint for that is that you have the character of Takemura, right, who's the bodyguard of the emperor, right? Arasaka.
The Arasaka.
But there's a lot of his character is quite complex. So if we listen to I'll play a short clip of his backstory, where it's really conveying his humanity, right? His sense of the struggle that he's had. He's not just a villainous character or a side quest. Dude.
I remember the chemical stench of the canal, where we boys washed our shirts. Corporate transporters sometimes passed through our slum. Arasaka selecting children, but only the clean ones. Arasaka gave me what no one else could. Values I could honor, live for. This was most important. You dirty your hands for money. I, in the name of a principle.
So as you can probably see...
sorry, that's actually from a YouTube clip from the Tabernacle called The Anti-Japanese Racism and Orientalism of Cyberpunk from Blade Runner to Cyberpunk 2077. His YouTube is basically ripping it apart, saying it is full of racist stereotypes. He loves this world setting, but he finds it highly problematic. And I agree with some of the criticism, as the Arasaka one is pretty much playing into that trope of the villainous, shogun empire. But I think Takamura's character is complex, is full of kind of remorse and a sense of exploitation he'd suffered. He's not just a cardboard cutout villain. In fact, he becomes a helpful guide throughout this world.
The funny thing to me is that it's negative if you frame it as a dystopia, and in many ways it is a dystopia. Yeah. However, when I look in that world, I want to be in there.
What is it about the world that appeals to you?
It's because it's just so, technologically advanced. I want to be in a world that technologically advanced, no matter what.
Yeah, and that, in many ways, that's what I was thinking about in terms of their aspects of the HUD and your interface in that world.
Yeah.
Like the net running you can do, which is where your character can has got various cyber implants, which means they can hack into security systems and be able to see through security cameras and switch them off. And again, when I see security cameras, like I've seen a couple of security cameras just walking around today, and I've thought, wow, if I was a net runner, I could just hack into that camera.
So that's why when we went down to Kingston, it was like, that is a good CCTV camera.
That's right. I've been pointing out location.
It was like the first time you've ever pointed that out, and we've gone there 100 times. And I was like so confused. You were like, "There's a CCTV camera over there."
Good location for it. That's their location because you've got the pedestrian pathway, and we'd be able to pick up an accident or something. And I'm only tuned into that because in the game, whenever I come across a group of people that I need to take care of, I'm always trying to find where the cameras are first to then hack into the cameras, locate where the rest of the people are that I'm going to have to take care of. And then I've been doing that in real life.
Yeah.
Just I'll walk into a space and say, okay, where are the security cameras here? Yeah. And it has made me really sensitive to how many security cameras are around us. And again, that's part of the cyberpunk world, that you're in a highly surveyed society. And yeah, I agree with your sense of the fun of the immersiveness of it. And that's the punkness of cyberpunk, they say, right? Where the cyber is it's high tech, but the punk is it's your working class, it's your people on the streets that are using that corporate technology for themselves, right? So your character gets to hack into the corporate security cameras to then use those to defend himself with.
But of course, your character can also be corporate too.
Well, that's where the power is. The ultimate power in these worlds where it's dystopic is that, you don't have a welfare system, you don't have anyone helping you, you don't have any supports in this space. The companies own you, and the companies own the power.
The thing that I really like about it is that even though it is so high tech and there's all of this amazing stuff everywhere, there's still just rubbish on the ground.
It's a really filthy world.
It is.
Yeah. Look, and it does have that wonderfully worn world building to it, which is why I always prefer the world building of Star Wars to Star Trek. While Star Trek is a fantastic universe, nevertheless, the kind of alien world, the Blade Runner world, the Star Wars world is all about used technology, which is partly damaged. It has storytelling within that. Big Boy Nadia sent another.
Oh, he sent another too.
Message.
He said, "I've heard of people being called racists for wearing traditional Chinese outfits, whereas actual Chinese people are fine with it."
Look, and that's one thing I found when I was looking into information about Cyberpunk 2077 and the Techno-Orientalism. That
so some people from the future have said it's okay.
2077 time travelers have said it's great. People from Japan who have commented about it, as well as some of the reviews online, have been positive about how the use of Japanese language is spot on in the cityscape. The katakana and English blurring that's there is more evolved than it is in Japan. Like you have HO and then teru in katakana. So they've quite enjoyed the accuracy to the written system.
And if you like stand up on the top of a building, you can see karaoke everywhere, which is true.
Family Mart.
So there is a sense of also some sense of the soft power of Japan. That in the 80s, yes, Japan was on the rise, and in many ways, maybe it was lucky they've got that as a cultural soft power, like the positive image people have of a country from around the world. There are far worse ones to be stuck with than Cyberpunk.
Like
the kangaroos and Crocodile Man Hunter.
And how about fermented fish from like Norway? And things like that?
Yeah, well, they got Vikings.
Storming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So in many ways, many of the reviews of Cyberpunk 2077 from Japanese players and game reviewers in Japan were positive in terms of much like Big Boy Nady saying, not taking offense at this, but seeing it as actually
a positive spin on it.
Yeah, culturally attuned, as opposed to, I guess, the bad press that the Assassin's Creed Japan one had, where some of the lettering was wrong, where it was just there as an Orientalist touch.
And they didn't allow you to break grave sites either. or whatever it was.
Probably a good thing. But also the voice acting's good, right? I mean, you've got a good Japanese voice acting there. What's the second point?
I can't read it from here.
You have a point. It's depicted as a dystopia, but it doesn't need to be. Maybe make Brisbane into a cyberpunk city, and it might be fine. Just a normal technological city. If you did. So in this environment, of course, you've got Japantown, which is kind of like a Chinatown that exists in some of the larger cities, which does provide you that sense of cultural hybridity that food is engaged with and celebrated. Were there any other? I mean, it'd be interesting. Yeah, Cyberpunk Brisbane, Cyberpunk Hobart.
Cyberpunk Hobart.
I mean, I kind of think you could do steampunk Hobart.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've got a lot of old colonial buildings.
Yeah, we just don't have the high rises that you need for a cyberpunk city.
I mean, with Dark Mofo, it kind of gets swept away in some neon.
I suppose.
Right, that neonscape. Which is, I think, also the pleasure of Cyberpunk 2077, is that neon cityscape space. We've got about 2 or 3 minutes left. So we might return to some of these themes in the future because I've got so much more to talk about. But I mean, for me, I guess the enjoyment I've had for Cyberpunk 2077 is that they've gone back to the 80s version of that world. So I started off as a nomad, and you're
of course.
Yeah, that's how I roll. I'm very Mad Max. And you start with an 80s car that's been kind of Mad Max stuff a bit. And I felt that was an immediate entry point to me in terms of this is a kind of 80s as if everything went off the rails.
Right, yeah.
Right. So you've still got a lot of that temperament and cultural climate from the 80s. So the version of Japantown is very much a kind of what if Japan continued its success up as opposed to the economic downturn it took in the early 90s.
This is funny because I've played through the game twice now. So I started off on PC and now doing Switch, of course. For PC, I started as a corpo.
Right, the kind of corporate.
Yeah. And for Switch, I did the Street Kid.
So
I haven't done the Nomad one yet.
The Mad Max one?
Yeah.
All right, let's go. I've done a whole punk. He's got a mohawk.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it looks totally out of place in the city. And I guess that would be Cyberpunk Australia, which is Mad Max Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It actually is not neon-based, but all about, these tyranny of distance, deserts, and your punk kind of not steam, but 80s diesel technology.
Yeah, diesel punk.
Yeah, where it's all about you've got a crossbow on your forehand and slightly medieval vibe to it. But that's probably Australia's strongest sci-fi image.
Yeah,
Mad Max. Again, thanks, Big Boy Native, for being part of the conversation. Wonderful to have some audience engagement. Ronan, you want to sign us out with a tune? Again, I think that really evokes Cyberpunk.
And it really resolved, too.
Really resolved. Thank you so much. So thanks, Taylor, for being on.
No worries.
We'll get you on with the Switch, and we'll do a live Let's Play. At some point. Okay, this has been Craig for Media Mothership for another week. You can find further show notes up on our podcast.
Please just use the mouse on that first.
Oh. There we go. Yes, the trackball, which is very cyberpunk.
Yeah, it is.
In vibe. We've got some great music coming up. Inevitably, we'll have Taylor's show
at some point.
For Airplay.
I need to just finish my website because that's the whole reason. I need to have people being able to send me tracks.
Yep.
So I need to finish the website.
Well, we've been practicing on the Kalimbo. So we'll send the Kalimbo. Yeah. Coming up now is FOMO by Tan.
By what?
By what?